Hello friends, so we are up to the Queen's Play chapter 5 from part 1, which is called Fast Drivings for the Purpose of Killing. So we're still in Rowan. I just thought I'd mention part 1 actually has a name, which is, I don't know if in Game of Kings the parts were named by like the hunt for Samuel Harvey, the hunt for Gideon Somerville or whatever, but this time we have names that aren't like that. The first name of the part 1 is called The Vulgar Liar, and then with each chapter what Dunnett has done is she's separated them into locations. So we had the boat, Dieppe, Rowan, 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 and then I've looked ahead and the same thing is for all the other parts. So I quite like that. It's nice to have those locations because this is dense reading. It's just nice to have extra like grounding information. The Vulgar Liar. Sorry, and that's not liar spelled L-I-A-R, it's L-Y-R-E, which is, I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's what I thought it was. It's an instrument. Does it have another definition? No. So the lyre is a stringed instrument of the harp class in a U shape. So it's something that a bard would have. So that kind of makes sense because to me, right now, Lymond is disguising himself as a bard, well, an olive, because to me that's what that is. The word bard in Wales, sorry, I'm just reading off Google here. The word bard in Wales denoted a master poet. In Ireland, it meant a poet who was not an olive, one who had not taken all the formal training. Interesting. I don't know if that's what she's getting at, the vulgar liar, because have you guys looked into the name of this part, the vulgar liar? There's got to be a meaning to it because it's done it. Like, there's no word that she puts down on the page that doesn't have a use or a second meaning or a third meaning. So I think the vulgar liar is Lymond, and he is obviously lying about who he is, but it's a play on words because he is a bard, because it says here specifically bards are untrained olives, and Lymond technically hasn't had the formal training of an olive, even though he's probably had better training because of his upbringing and just who he is. Chapter 5, by the way, which is what we're doing today, sorry, that was an aside. There's the procession, the entry of the King of France into Rouen, and there is the attempt on the young Queen Mary's life. And the best part is that we find out that Archie Abernaci is Turkey Matt's brother, and this is just such a great scene. Anyway, so we start here with bloody Jenny Fleming, who's clearly the troublemaker of the book. And we always need a troublemaker because Lymond has to come and save the day. So Jenny Fleming has decided to be super sneaky, but she wasn't sneaky in the end because people knew about this, and get herself and Queen Mary and a couple of the other kids on one of the floats that's going in this procession. And they shouldn't have been that. They should have been watching, I assume, with the Dowager Queen or doing something else safe. But no, they're on one of the floats, dressed up. The descriptions of Jenny is, nothing, uniformed or not, was going to dissuade a parcel of irresponsible redheads from the iron path of a whim. Are they all redheaded? I think they were redheaded. So yeah, that's what we get at the beginning. The description of Jenny Fleming is brilliant. It is just brilliant. This is the coolest line I've read in the book so far on page 62 regarding Jenny Fleming. Her soul was fanned with peacock's tails and nourished with stardust. I'm sorry, but nourished with stardust? It's so amazing that I know exactly what that means, but how the hell did Dunnett think of using that metaphor? Oh my gosh. Such a poetic thing to just chuck in the middle of a historical fiction book. Why not? Then we cut over to Robin Stewart. Now every time I go to Robin Stewart, I'm like, oh, the poor guy. Yeah, Robin Stewart definitely is Richard. 100%. He's the Richard of the book. Robin Stewart, highly polished to the best of his conscientious ability, was at the rear of a handful of men. Yeah, Robin Stewart is the sort of person, and Abernaci describes him like this later in the chapter, that he has all sense and no wits, which is, I would say, a good description of Richard as well, who was very sensible about how he ran everything on his estate and had everything sorted out perfectly, but couldn't possibly have the wit to realize that his little brother Lymond was actually on his side. So it's just that juxtaposition of sort of intelligence and wisdom, and when you don't have both, there's a big problem. Not that I think Robin Stewart is particularly intelligent. He's not unintelligent. I think Richard is intelligent, but he just doesn't have like a good amount of wisdom, or at least street smarts, whereas Lymond has a high amount of both street smarts and book smarts, which is a very dangerous yet attractive combination. So anyway, we've got the chariots getting ready. We've got the procession going on, and things start to go wrong. I will say it's difficult to read action sequences when Dunnett writes them, because you're trying to follow what's going on, but it's never straightforward, let's put it that way. But what I've gathered is that someone has spooked the elephants who have caused a ruckus. Everyone's trying to get across a bridge, and so they've upset the elephants just as Queen Mary is like getting onto this bridge on her chariot. And the idea is that everything's going to crash into everything, that the oil on top of the elephants is hopefully going to fall onto Queen Mary and burn her, or that they all just like fall into the ocean and the river, and in the chaos, maybe hopefully a little 7-year-old child will drown. And it is so good that Queen Mary did not die, because I have a feeling that Abernaci's head would have been on the chopping block. So they would have wanted someone to blame for that, right? And of course, Lymond has disappeared early in this sequence. He was supposed to be with Liam and he's like pissed off. And you know, when Lymond's gone, that obviously he's about to become like a mini hero. This is how it works. So he's now jumped up on these elephants and tried to turn them into the river rather than onto the bridge, I assume. And in the process, he himself has been burnt with all this hot oil, and he's fallen into the river. So Lymond has managed to get the elephant off, and then the keeper, Abernaci, has then got them further under control. It's so... And Lymond is like just watching all of this and happy. Like he's probably like just standing in the middle of this river, like in pain, and just happy as he watches all of the elephants sort of calm down in the water. For a moment, Teddyboy watched, then streaming river water and perfume he turned a little stiffly to wade back to the shore. So he's in a lot of pain. The fact that it says a little stiffly means that he is in a lot of pain. This is how we have Lymond in a lot of pain. Coincidentally, someone has been watching so carefully, and that someone is the French Anne de Montmorency, Marshal, Grand Master and Constable of France, who I think has a lot of historical significance, and I'm going to potentially have to look this person up and hopefully not give myself spoilers, has noticed Lymond and invites Lymond via the king to come and dine with them tonight. They didn't know who Lymond was, by the way, when this happened. So, I'm sorry, Teddyboy, I should say Teddyboy. So the king has seen this, or someone has pointed out to the king that, hey, that's the man that just like saved the procession from being completely ruined. And they've asked the Constable of France to go and get him. They didn't know it was Teddyboy at the time. They didn't know it was anyone of the Irish the Irish crew. So that's really interesting. And of course, they invite him to have dinner, and this is fascinating. This is so fascinating because what gets me about this is, what was Lymond trying to do? A lot of you have commented that this book is about Lymond trying to find himself. My question here is that Lymond has saved Queen Mary, and his goal probably is to make sure this little Scottish queen is okay. But also, Lymond at the same time was trying to attract the attention of the king so that he could stay in Ireland and continue his fun in France. And so there's two goals here. One of them is Lymond being super nice and amazing, a good Scottish lad at heart and helping his queen. The other is Lymond wanting to play. And so him saving Queen Mary, he had two reasons to want to do that, to save her, and also to a selfish reason for him to be able to stay in Ireland, in France. You could argue that he wants to stay in France because that means that he can stay close to Queen Mary and protect her further. But I think there's a big part of this, and I'll get to this at the end of the chapter, where Lymond is also doing it for himself. And so this is really interesting and sort of a little bit blurred as to his exact intentions. Anyway, so we just have a little like flash to Robin Stewart, who's like not happy because Robin Stewart has seen that Taddy Boy has saved the day, and he's red-faced and a little upset, avid to discover Taddy and explore every nuance. Robin's just like, well, why couldn't that have been me? Robin is now like constantly, I think, comparing himself to Taddy Boy, and he's seeing unfold in front of his eyes this random bard from Ireland come over and just make such an impact in France, where he's been in France for years and has done nothing but like keep his job and be, you know, mediocre at his job, potentially, maybe more than mediocre, but he's seeing like firsthand how much of a difference there is between himself and someone like Francis of Crawford, not that he knows his identity yet, and how much of a difference intelligence and charisma can make. Poor Robin. This is like why I think Robin is like Richard, because this is exactly how Richard must have been feeling his whole life growing up. Like Richard's like, well, I have a good position and everything's good around me, but he just sees this like amazing angelic little brother just flit around and do things, and everyone's more interested in the little brother. But Richard's like, I was here first, damn it. I love this description on the bottom of page 69. Nice. Regarding the elephants, their breath was sweet, filling the sun-warmed crisp air, and their hides, soothed, clean, and lustrous from the water, lay calm on their great hips like the skin of the moon. I think I love all of the metaphors that are related to astrological terms, because I love the stardust one, and I'm now comparing the hide of an elephant to the skin of the moon is just, it's so true. It's what they would look like. If you've ever seen an elephant come out of the water, it's this beautiful, like, rough but sheen of water that's just coming down their back. Anyway, so Lymond's walking into the elephant area. I'm assuming to try to find, I don't really know what he was doing here. Like, I guess he was trying to find Abernaci, but I know that his secondary goal was probably to find the guy, what's his name, who we thought actually was the one responsible for upsetting the elephants, which is Pierre d'Estiers, or Pierre d'Estiers, who was another keeper of the royal menageries of France. So he gets there and sees Abernaci, who totally knows who Lymond is, and just kind of like, he's like, come over. They have a bit of a chat. Lymond tells Abernaci that he suspects he's Scottish because he's heard he heard Abernaci. He's not Abernaci, sorry, he's Abernaci? Sorry, it's described as both Abernaci and Abernaci. Abernaci. Urchi. Abernaci. What are people calling him? Basically, Lymond heard Archie yelling at a elephant called Huey. I'm assuming Huey is something Scottish. And then we find out that Turkey Matt was his brother, and this is just such a lovely scene because Archie is just like, I remember you, and the only thing me and my brother Matt agreed about was that we liked you and trusted you and liked your values and what you stood for. And that's just such a beautiful moment. Such a beautiful moment. Already I can see here that Archie has a lot more charisma than his brother. I think he's than Matt. And I feel bad about this, saying this, because Matt was so lovely and also really liked Lymond and did so much for him, including dying whilst trying to help Lymond escape when he was caught by Andrew Hunter. But so there's obviously a history where Lymond has met these two, and I'm so confused as to when this happened. Was it after he was captured and became a slave in the French galleys? Was it before that? This is all really weird. I'm gonna say it's after, but the timeline of Lymond's short few-year history where he was away from Scotland in exile is going to be a constant source of confusion for me. This is really interesting because Lymond basically, in the space of a few pages, says one thing and then asks another. So follow me on this, because this is Lymond being a hypocrite. So Lymond is like all happy that Turkey Matt was his brother, and then he sort of says, look, I'm going to tell you how he died, but then I'm going to go. I'm not proposing to make this a family custom, which is lovely. Lymond is obviously like, I don't really want to involve anyone else because I've already been, I think he thinks himself responsible for Turkey Matt's death. So he's saying, I'm not going to allow that to happen. But then at the end of the chapter, he literally asks Abernaci for help, or Archie for help. He says, this is on page 75, unless we find out who it is. I thought I might rely on your benevolent eye and that of Huey. How strict is your secret? If I send friends of mine to you, will they have to speak Urdu? So Lymond literally is now asking for Archie's help, despite saying, I'm not proposing to make it a family custom. But Lymond must know that anyone involved with him and his plans is in immediate danger, relative danger to what they were before. So that was interesting. Did anyone else pick up on that complete like backflip that Lymond did? This was hilarious because yeah, Lymond was like, how the hell did you recognize me? This was in Michael Harrison's secret printing press when Lymond was crouching down next to Archie whilst Archie was making a wood cutting. And what had happened was that Archie had recognized Lymond and started making a cutting in the Crawford or Coulter family crest, which I find a little far-fetched that he knows so well that he could make a wood cutting out of. But anyway, we'll say that he's a talented woodcutter and has an amazing memory. I think Archie is probably quite smart. I think smarter than Matt. This is what I'm getting so far. I really, really like him. Okay, sorry. I've been saying Archie, it's Urchie. So what happens is that, but this is what is so far, but what's even more far-fetched is that Urchie basically says that he recognizes Lymond by a scar or two that Lymond had back then that he also has now, and that's how. And he says, I was 9/10 sure of you, sure enough to give you a hint that there was a friend handy at least. So cute. So he's basically saying, hey, I'm a friend, Lymond, I'm here, I can help you, and like in the most roundabout way possible. That's just so cute. He's recognized Lymond and he's like, poor Lymond must be alone and without friends, and I know how he operates, so I'm gonna wave a little green flag saying, I'm here, I can help you. Scar though, that's what interesting. What scar did he see on Lymond? Because it can't be a facial scar, because Dunnett would never scar Lymond's face. Even though Lymond must have scars on his face, because he was hit by so many, he was injured so badly in Game of Kings. I'm assuming the scars he's talking about are the scars on Lyman's hands. Um, I think he has scars on the backs of his hands. Oh no, on the palm of his hands. That's right. Um, Margaret Lennox noticed these scars, and so that means that Lymond had been in the galleys before he met Urchi. I'm assuming that's the scars we're talking about, because if there was any other really noticeable scar on Lymond's face, Lymond wouldn't really be able to have much of a good disguise, because scars are very noticeable and unique. And then the cutest part, which made me fall in love with Urchi, oh my gosh, is that he notices that Lymond is injured with this from burnt from the oil, and he starts to like hop about, get some fresh clothes, and comes down to sit next to Lymond and like starts really carefully, it says here, tenderly lifting the ruined cloth off Francis Crawford's shoulders. He's basically just now tending to Lymond so lovingly, and Lymond's just allowing it. There's so much trust in this moment, and it just speaks to obviously how much Urchi trusts Lymond, and Lymond trusts these two brothers. And it's just so lovely that he's just like playing nurse to Lymond. I don't know why I find that so touching. It's just unexpectedly nice. Um, I did laugh out loud when Lymond was like, "Well, God, in the water you were roaring your head off at a bloody bull elephant called Huey." All the while Lymond is saying this, he's in a lot of pain. Superficial pain withstood as like the cloth is getting peeled away. I wonder what these are like. Burns are not good. Poor Lymond. And then Lymond falls asleep for ages. He's been all doctored up and balmed and bandaged, and he just goes to sleep. And it's just so cute. He must trust Archie so much that he's just like, I'm gonna sleep here for 10 hours, and I trust that Urchi is going to look out for me. But bottom of 71, there's such a great line. Lymond woke up fresh, collected, and in command of a stream of cool, sarcastic invective. So every time Lymond sleeps, his sarcasm meter just like tops itself up. He's all ready to go. Ready for another day of verbal lashing. Okay. So then they're talking again. I don't know if Urchi slept much then. I'm assuming that Urchi was like doing stuff, because Urchi has now found out that what's his name? Pierre Destiaz, the guy without a heel, which makes no sense, but we'll just leave that, is dead. And they have a chat about this essentially. Yeah, so they're waking up, like he's woken up, and they're sort of still in this tent, and Lymond's like, I have no idea what clothes Lymond is wearing, but apparently the keeper has these beautiful silk clothes on. And he's like, why are you so short of sleep? Because Urchi's clearly like, my God, he's sleeping for a long time. And Lymond sort of explains that, well, I wasn't under guard because Robin Stewart was the one guarding. And they kind of have a little private joke to each other about how easy it is to slip away under the eye of Robin Stewart. And I kind of like that, because we had Robin Stewart be terribly rude to Urchi back in Michael Harrison's place, where he basically just snubbed him. Well, he basically just looked down upon him because it was like racist essentially. And there's a line here on middle of 72 where Urchi says regarding Robin Stewart, they let him into Michael Harrison's, and lay wagers on what he'll do next. So it seems like a lot of these guys that go to it's not Michael, it's probably Michelle Harrison. So sorry, I've been saying Michael Harrison. So English. Michelle Harrison, who is French. So yeah, I'm clearly saying that wrong. My apologies. Oh no, Michelle Harrison, even though it looks like a French name, is a Scots sculptor. We don't know how to say that name. That's okay. So yeah, everyone that Michelle Harrison invites to his little underground printing press kind of like they have an in-joke that they're all like saying, "What will Robin Stewart do next?" And they lay wagers on like what silly thing he'll do. That's kind of cruel. It's exactly what people would do to Richard though. Um Lymond though is just like chilling as they're chatting and like picks up a scimitar, a dress scimitar, so probably a really fancy scimitar, and just starts like swinging it around and making cuts in the air. Lymond, why do you have to be so cool? I mean, it's kind of cute that he does that, but like, so cute and cool. Um, and then at one point, Archie gets up, now described as Archie, not Urchie. It keeps changing. Dunnett, why? And he catches the scimitar as Lymond's thrown it up in the air. And that's just really cool. He's so cool. He's cooler than Matt. I love you, Archie. Oh my god, I really want to see Lymond and Archie fighting together. They would be so good. I also love that Lymond just takes any chance he can to just practice with a blade because he's so good, apparently, you know, at a lot of like battle stuff, but I'm always like, where is he practicing? Where and when is he practicing? Because whenever I see him, he's always just like sneaking around in disguises, pretending to be drunk. I'm assuming he practiced a lot when he was in Scotland, recovering in the past 2 years. So basically, we get to the end of the chapter now, where they find out that Pierre Destiers is dead. He drowned, but he was knifed first. So, and I definitely saw that one coming. As soon as I found out that Pierre Destiers was dead, I was like, he didn't drown, someone killed him because someone has employed Pierre to try to kill this little Queen Mary. And they don't want to leave any trails. So they've gone and killed him. So someone is employing Pierre, and we don't know who that is. So this is really interesting. I have no idea who this could be. Like, I just feel like we might not have even met the character yet who has employed Pierre. Or if it is, it's going to be someone that has just been mentioned. Like, could it be Sir James Mason, the English ambassador in France? I'm definitely keeping my eye on him. Could it be... Could it be any one of the French who just doesn't like Queen Mary? But there's a lot of characters we haven't met yet, so we'll see. So Lymond then asks for Urchie's help, and Urchie agrees. So new ally. Now this is a cute moment. I've got two more things I want to say. Firstly, Lymond being passive aggressive because Archie just keeps talking about random stuff, and Francis is just like, I want to fucking see this Pierre, and Archie is like, are you wanting to see him? And Francis is like, I've been trying to indicate as much for 10 minutes. Lymond, you can't get angry at people talking themselves around in circles. You do it all the time. I'm sorry. I want to point out, so the things I want to point out is just how sharp I think Archie is, because Archie is basically saying, I know I can trust you, Lymond, but you've only got my words to believe. Like, Archie's pointing out to Lymond that, Lymond, why are you trusting me so readily? And then he says, you've been gay confiding for a man of your sort, Crawford of Lymond. So he's saying, you've really been confiding in me like a lot for someone who is so reserved in their judgment and careful with their words. So even Urchie has pointed out to Lymond that Lymond seems very trusting and confident around Archie. So that's kind of cute, like that he's sharp enough to pick up on that. But Lymond kind of just shrugs it off and says, well, neither of us need reassurance on who the other is, because Lymond has seen that that Urchie really helped him with the elements today. So Urchie was trying to do the right thing by not hurting the queen. So that's why Lymond trusts him. But then Lymond just kind of shrugs his shoulders and basically says, I've got many, many reasons to trust you. You don't need reassurance for me, said Lymond, and neither do I. You identified me at Harrison's. You ran your guts out for those elephants. Your turkey mat over again without your nightcap. And I remember you more clearly than I want to. Without the nightcap. Did Matt just always get drunk? I don't know. Yeah, so Lymond's like, yeah, I really need to find out where this guy Pierre is, because Lymond suspects that Pierre is the same guy who also tried to kill Lymond on the boat as they were coming in. And Lymond can't figure out if the attempt was on his own life, Francis of Crawford, or on O'Lee and Rose's life. It seems so unlikely that it would be on Lymond's life because, oh my goodness, there are very few people who know Lymond's identity. And if that has been leaked out, that's via someone that Lymond trusts. So that's a fascinating concept, Lymond, that you're thinking like that. And here we come to the end of the chapter. This is the second thing I want to say, where Lymond needs to basically face who he is, because Lymond has now admitted that he's been invited to the king's dinner that evening, and he plans to make sure that he gets an invite to stay in France. And he's such a bard. He says here that this is the end of chapter 5, and it's a brilliant line, and I'm sure all of you probably remember reading this. To be perfectly frank, said Lymond, gently reflective. To be perfectly frank, I can't wait to sink my teeth into the most magnificent, the most scholarly, and the most dissolute court in Europe. So, this is Lymond admitting to himself that he just likes the idea of being in with the court of France and having ears and eyes and a mouth all around, and just being a part of it and learning it, and basically learning how to play it and getting on the in. He enjoys it. So is he doing it for himself, or is he doing it for the Queen of Scotland? Is he lying to himself about that? Oh, little Lymond. Which one is true? I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of this chapter. I'm so confused about Lymond's... I'm confused about Lymond's motivations. And that is a wonderful place to be as a reader. I will see you next time.